Hello students, welcome to Science Learning Gateway. In this tutorial, today I will teach you class 8 science chapter number 3, that is structure of atom. Basically in this chapter we'll read about the different theories given by the different scientists about the atom, its structure and all those things. So let's start with the chapter. Okay, this is the flow chart given in your textbook in which everything is written that what we have to study in this chapter. Just in short, they have given this flow chart. So this is the structure of atom. In that we have to read about the Dalton's postulates, then J.J. Thomson's discharge tube experiment, then Goldstein anode raised experiment, after that Rutherford alpha ray scattering experiment, Chadwick's discovery of neutrons, Bohr's model of atom. These were the scientists who has given different theories about the structure of atom, and also they have discovered the electrons, protons and neutrons. About these theories we'll learn in that. After that we'll read about the nucleons, atomic mass, protons and neutrons which are present inside the atom. About atomic number we'll read, about mass number we'll read, about electrons we'll read, and the different energy levels of the atom. These topics are in short given in the textbook which we have to study further. So let's start with the chapter. Okay, first of all you should know what is atom. Atom is the smallest particle by which everything is made. Means all the things around us, they all are made up of atom. Even the matter. First of all, you should know what is matter. Matter is anything which occupies space and has mass. Matter is made up of atom. The previous scientists, they have told that all the matter around us is made up of atom. And what is matter? Matter is anything which has mass and occupies space. Even the books you are reading, the clothes we are wearing, the food which we are eating, everything is made up of matter, and matter is made up of the smallest particle called atoms. Okay, so one of the scientists was there who was known as Kanada. He was the first to suggest that all the matter is made up of very small particles called Parmanu. Okay, in Sanskrit the meaning of Parmanu is final or ultimate, and Anu means particle. So that time the name atom was not given to that substance, but he told that matter is made up of Parmanu. After that, many experiments were going on. Means many scientists came and they also agreed with him that yes, matter is made up of the smallest particle. After that, in the 5th century, philosopher Democritus came. He named the smallest particle as atom, and he said that it cannot be divided further. Means according to Democritus, atoms cannot be divided further. But now we know that atoms can be divided into 3 subatomic particles: electrons, protons and neutrons. But that time the scientists were not so confident about that. So they said that atoms are not divided. Okay, so now we'll start with the chapter. Do you know what is element? Any substance made up of the same type of atom is called the element. Okay, element is any substance which is made up of the same type of atom. For example, sodium atom, magnesium atom, potassium atom. Sodium atom will be made of only sodium atoms. Then we have the potassium. It is also element. It is made up of only potassium atom. Like that we have altogether 118 elements. Okay, now how many elements we have? 118 elements we have. Till now 118 elements are discovered. Maybe in future more elements will be discovered, but now we have only 118 elements. Out of this 118 elements, 90 elements are natural, means which can be found in the nature. Means we can get these elements in the nature, but other elements, means rest of them are prepared in the laboratory by the different scientists. Means they are man-made elements. So only 90 elements are your natural elements and other elements are man-made. Okay, now can you tell me the name of some of the elements which we use in our day-to-day life? Aluminium utensils we are using, gold we are using as in jewelry, silver we are using in the joinery, copper vessels also we use. Okay, these are iron we are using. These are the different elements we are using in our day-to-day life. Now we'll start with atomic theory. This is a very important topic from this chapter, atomic theory. Okay, now in 1803, English chemist Dalton put forth his atomic theory. A scientist was there whose name was Dalton, John Dalton. He has given that atomic theory in the year 1803. The main postulates of the theory, means what are the points which was given by Dalton, we'll read about it. In exam also this type of questions will come. Write Dalton's atomic theory, or they will give you write the main postulates of Dalton's atomic theory. Then you have to write these points. At least 4 points you should remember. The first point what we have, elements are made up of very small indivisible particles called atom. What he said, that elements Just now I have told you that elements are those substances which are made up of same kind of atom. Elements, he said that elements are made up of very small indivisible particles called atom. He also said that elements are made up of very small particles and those are called atoms. And he has used the word indivisible, means he also said that atom cannot be divided. Okay, this is a very easy point. Elements are made up of very small indivisible particle called atom. Second point what we have, all the atoms of a particular element are identical in shape, mass and other property, but they are different from the atoms of the other element. Second property what we have, suppose we have sodium element Na. Okay, symbol of sodium is Na. This sodium element is made up of only sodium atom, and all the sodium atoms present in the element sodium will be identical in shape, means their shape will be same, their mass will be same and even the chemical properties will be same. But suppose we have taken over their calcium. Suppose we have taken calcium, symbol of calcium is Ca. Calcium element will be made of calcium atom. So what he said, that atoms of the same element will be identical in shape, mass and other properties, but they will be different from the atoms of the other elements. For example, the atom of sodium will be different from the atom of calcium. Likewise, atom of sodium will be different from atom of zinc. Atom of calcium will be different from atom of iron. So what we have understood over here, that in atom of a particular element, all the atoms of a particular element will be identical in shape, mass and other properties, but the atoms will be different from the atom of other elements. Okay. Next point what we have, atom of one element cannot be converted into those of another element, means one atom of one element we cannot convert into those of other element. For example, sodium atom we cannot convert into calcium atom. Likewise, we cannot convert the calcium atom into sodium atom. For every element, atoms will be fixed. Okay. The fourth point what we have, atom of an element combine in integral ratio with those of other element to form a compound. For example, water, H2O. You all know the formula of water, H2O. In forming this water is a compound. For forming the water, which elements we need? We need hydrogen and oxygen. So in this, hydrogen is 2 and oxygen is 1. No number is written over there. The ratio will be 2:1. Means for making water, what we need hydrogen and oxygen, the ratio of 2:1. This is the fourth point. Atoms of an element, for example hydrogen atom, oxygen atom, they will combine in integral ratio, means suppose over there they are combining the ratio of 2:1 with those of the other element to form a compound. Hydrogen is combining with oxygen to form a compound H2O. Next point we have, an atom can neither created nor be destroyed, means we cannot create any atom or nor we can destroy the atom. This is a very easy point. The first point you all can remember, that atoms are made up of very small particles, very small indivisible particles called atom. I think third point is also easy. Atom of one element cannot be converted into those of another element. Fourth one is also easy. Atom of an element combine in integral ratio with those of other element to form a compound. And the fifth one you can remember as, an atom can neither be created nor be destroyed. So these are the 4 points which you can learn. At least 4 points you should know. Next, Dalton's atomic theory was the first milestone in explaining the inner structure of matter. Means he was the first scientist who was able to explain the inner structure of matter, means how the matter will look from inside. He gave a powerful initiative to the scientists in the study of matter in the 19th century. Means his ideas were very helpful for the other scientists also, so that they can explain the structure of matter from inside. Next experiment will read about J.J. Thomson's experiment about fundamental particles. We have 3 fundamental particles or 3 subatomic particles: electrons, protons and neutrons. The first experiment will read about J.J. Thomson experiment. Let's see what he did. J.J. Thomson and others, means he worked with other scientists and he has conducted some experiment using discharge tube apparatus. What is a discharge tube? Discharge tube is like this. In the diagram you can see it is made up of a glass tube and it is long and it will be little thick also. So discharge tube is a tube which is made up of a glass. Okay. Using this discharge tube, he has conducted one experiment. A discharge tube is a glass tube about 15 cm long. Length of the discharge tube is 15 cm and it is 3 cm in diameter, means width of the discharge tube is 3 cm. Connected to a vacuum pump, metal electrodes are fixed fixed to the ends of the glass tube. You can see the discharge tube, it is 15 centimeter long and 3 centimeter in diameter. This is the thickness. Okay, after that we have two electrodes. One is known as the cathode, another one is known as the anode. Cathode is negatively charged and anode is positively charged. Then again he has connected one vacuum pump in the discharge tube. One generator is also connected, and he has applied very low pressure in he has given very low pressure inside the discharge tube. Okay, then what he did, he created a very low pressure inside the discharge tube and applied high voltage. Means pressure was very low, but he applied a high voltage. Okay, you can see high voltage generator. He observed a greenish glow near the anode of the glass tube. When he has applied a low pressure and he has applied a very high voltage, what he can see the greenish glow near the anode of the glass tube. Means near over here he can see the green glow. It's written over there green glow also. The green light can be seen near the anode. The rays which are emitted from the cathode towards the anodes and cause the greenish glow. The rays, you can see the arrows, the red arrows. These are known as cathode rays. These are responsible for the greenish glow inside the discharge tube. The stream of rays emitted from the cathode are called cathode rays. So what are cathode rays? The rays which are coming from the cathode are called cathode rays. Till now we have discussed over there that he has conducted, J.J. Thomson has conducted one experiment using a glass tube, discharge tube, which is made up of glass, and it is 15 centimeter long and 3 centimeter in diameter. He has connected two metal electrodes. One is known as cathode, another one is known as anode. After that he has applied a very low pressure and high voltage. That time he observed a greenish glow near the anode of the glass tube, and the rays which are coming from the cathode are responsible for the greenish glow, and they are known as the cathode rays. After that, again what he did, J.J. Thomson again did one experiment in which he has placed one light pedal wheel. In the diagram you can see the light pedal wheel. He has used the light pedal wheel in the path of the cathode rays. The pedal wheel started to rotate. He concluded that cathode rays are stream of particles. Means when the rays are coming from the cathodes, these rays are responsible for rotating. The wheel started to rotate. After that what he concluded, when the wheel was rotating, that time he concluded that cathode rays are stream of particles. Means they are having some energy. The cathode rays are carrying some energy. That's why this wheel is rotating. Otherwise it cannot rotate. For example, the fan in our house, we cannot use the fan without electricity, because electricity is energy which is helping to rotate the fan. Like that only cathode rays are stream of particles. Means they are carrying the energy to rotate the light paddle wheel. Again, J.J. Thomson again carried one of the experiment. In that what he did, J.J. Thomson applied an electric field parallel to the path of the rays. The cathode rays deflected towards the anode. He concluded that cathode rays are negatively charged. He has applied an electric field parallel to the path of rays. Means he has applied two plates, positive plate and the negative plate. Electric field is applied. Again what he has seen the cathode rays are deflected towards the anode. Means the cathode rays which are coming from the cathode will go towards the anode. Means it will go towards the anode. The anode, just now I have told you that anode is a positively charged electrode and cathode is a negative charged electrode. Then if the rays are going towards the cathode, means the rays which are coming from the cathode are going towards the anode, means it is attracting the anode. Means unlike charges attract each other. So what we can conclude from that, what he has concluded, that cathode rays are negatively charged. If the cathode rays will be positive, then it will not come close to the anode. It will go back. Means it will repel each other, but it is negatively charged. That's why it is attracting the anode is positive charge, so it will be deflected towards the anode. By this experiment he concluded that cathode rays are negatively charged. And again J.J. Thomson, what he did, he has given the name of the cathode rays as he has given the name of the cathode ray. He has named these particles. J.J. Thomson has named these particles as electrons. He conducted the experiment with different gases. When he has used different gases also inside the glass tube, the result was same. So he named these particles as electrons, and electrons are negatively charged particles. They carry negative charge. You have to remember that electrons are negatively charged particles. The electron, the mass of the electron is very small. It is lighter than the hydrogen atom. Now what we can conclude, he has shown by his experiment that electrons are the fundamental particles. Means he has shown that from the cathode rays, the rays which are coming, they are carrying the stream of energy, is carrying the energy, and it is also moving towards anode. So he named those particles as electrons. So he proved that atom is divisible and it is made up of very small particles. The first fundamental particle was discovered, that is electron. Next we'll read about that. Next we'll read about the protons and neutrons also in the next experiment. Okay, now presence of positive charge in an atom. Now we'll study about the positive charge. Negative charge we have read about electrons. Electrons was discovered and it is present inside the atom. Now we'll read about the positive charge which is present inside an atom. In 1886, means in the year 1886, Goldstein was another scientist. He has performed one experiment in which he modified the type of discharge tube with a perforated cathode. Means the discharge tube was same, but he has done little changes in that, and he has used perforated cathode in place of cathode. He observed that certain rays travel in the direction opposite to that of the cathode rays. These rays are called anode rays. In this experiment, what he has seen, that some rays are coming opposite to that of cathode, means these rays are coming from the anode, and the rays which are coming from the anode are called the anode rays. He has applied an electric field parallel to the path of the anode rays. He observed that path of the rays deflected towards the cathode. From this, he concluded that these rays contain positively charged particles and are called positive rays. When he applied the electric field, like the previous experiment also, the rays were getting deflected towards the anodes. Means the rays will move towards the cathode. Since the rays which are coming from the anode are positive, that's why they are moving towards the cathode. Cathode is a negatively charged electrode. From this, he concluded that the rays which are coming from the anode, they are carrying positive charge and they are called positive rays. The deflection of anode rays in an electric field was very little when compared to the deflection of cathode rays. Means in this experiment, the deflection is very little as compared to that experiment which we have studied earlier. The reason is that deflection of anode rays toward cathodes depend on the type of gases taken inside the tube. In the previous experiment, in the J.J. Thomson experiment, what we have studied, that if he is using different gases also, then the result was same. But in this case, in case of the anode rays, the result was different for different gases. So the deflection is very small in this case. Next, we'll read about the characteristics of anode rays. Means what are the different properties of anode rays. This is very important question. In your exercise also this question is there. Write the different characteristics of anode rays. The first point is that they consist of positively charged particles. What you will write? Just now we have read that anode rays are positive rays. So they consist of positively charged particles. They are deflected by electrical and magnetic fields. Means in the experiment also we have seen that anode rays are deflected by the electrical and the magnetic fields. The deflection is very little when compared to the deflection of cathode rays because they consist of heavy particles, nucleus. Means what we have read in the second point, that they are deflected by electrical and magnetic. Deflected means they will move. If from their original position they will move left or right if we will apply electric or magnetic field. But the deflection in case of anode rays is very small as compared to cathode rays because they consist of heavy particles, nucleus. Means the positive rays or the positive particles, they are present inside the nucleus, which is very large in mass, very heavy. They are very heavy. Their mass is very high. The deflection of anode rays depend on the nature of the gas in the discharge tube. Means the deflection, the movement of the anode rays will depend on the nature of the gas. Heavier the gas, lower the deflection. For example, our hydrogen gas, it is very light in weight. So the deflection will be maximum in that case. If the gas will be heavy, then the deflection will be very less. But if the gas will be lighter, then the deflection will be more. So these were the different characteristics of anode rays. Now we'll read about Rutherford's experiment. Okay, what he did in that experiment, that we will read. He conducted alpha ray scattering experiment. This is also very important topic. Rutherford's experiment, or you can get write Rutherford's experiment or explain Rutherford's experiment, or you can get write Rutherford's alpha ray scattering experiment. Anything you can get. So this answer will be same. He conducted alpha ray scattering experiment in which he directed high speed positively charged alpha particles towards a thin gold foil. What he did, he has used alpha rays. Alpha rays are very fast moving rays. They have very high speed. and he has used a gold foil also, thin gold foil also for his experiment. Now we'll look at the observation what he did. When he has conducted the experiment, most of the alpha particles pass through the gold foil without deflection. Means when he has placed one gold foil and he has applied the alpha ray particles, most of the alpha rays will pass through the foil without deflection. They will not deflect, means they will not come back. They will move towards the gold foil. They will pass the gold foil. Second point, a few of them were deflected at very large angles from their original direction, but few of the gold foils will deflect. They will come back to their original position, forming a large angle. Third point, a very few alpha particles completely rebound on hitting the gold foil and turn back on their path. Means some of the alpha particles, very few of them, they will return in their original path only. They will hit the gold foil and they will return on their original path. This is the experiment by which we can understand it more clearly. See, this is the alpha rays, Rutherford's alpha ray scattering experiment. In that, he has used a thin gold foil. This is our atom. Okay, in the center you can see a positive charge is there. This is the nucleus. If he has used a gold foil over there, and these are the alpha rays. They are coming. They will cross the gold foil and they will cross the gold foil and they will come back. Okay, but few of the alpha rays, they were getting deflected by small angles. The first arrow you can see alpha particles that travel straight. Some of the alpha rays will travel straight through this gold foil, but few of the alpha particles will deflected alpha particles, means they will return back to their original path, and few of the alpha particles will bounce back. Means after hitting the gold foil, they will travel in their original path only. They will come back. So this was the experiment. In that, he has used a thin gold foil and he has used the alpha rays. When some of the alpha rays particles will travel straight, some of the alpha rays particle will deflected by forming some angles, and some of the few of the alpha rays will bounce back. Now, what are the different conclusions which he has made by performing this experiment? The first point is, as most of the alpha particles pass straight through the gold foil without any deflection, it shows that there is lot of empty space in an atom. We can see that most of the alpha particles are traveling straight, means they are passing through the gold foil in a straight line. Okay, so what he has concluded? He has concluded that lot of space is there in an atom, means in the atom many space is empty. So that's why the alpha particles can pass through the gold foil. Lot of space is empty inside the atom. Second point, some of the alpha particles are deflected through small and large angles. Shows that there is positive center in the atom which repel the positively charged alpha particles. Since alpha particles are positively charged and in the center also positive charge is there. So what he has concluded, since most of the alpha particles are deflected by forming a large or the small angles, so he has concluded there must be some positive charge in the center, and this center, positively charged center, is called the nucleus. And as alpha particles are also positively charged, so they will repel each other. That's why they are going back. And the fourth point, very few alpha particles completely rebound on hitting, shows that all positive charge and mass of the atom were concentrated in very small volume with the atom. Means few of the alpha particles, they are going back. In this arrow you can see this alpha ray particle is going back in the original path. By this, what he has concluded, that very small mass of the atom is concentrated in the form of positive charge. Means in the center the nucleus is concentrated in the nucleus is present in the center, which is carrying the positive charge. So these are the three conclusions, that most of the space inside the atom is empty. Second point is that the positive charge is present in the center in the atom. And the third point is also that very small mass is concentrated, means the positive charge which is present in the center is present in very small space, means its mass is very, very small. Okay. So in this class we'll do here up till here only. This will be the part 1 of this chapter. Part 2 I will for next topics I will make a separate video for that, so that it will be easy for you to understand and to learn the concept. So let's have a quick revision of what are the things which we have read in this chapter. First topic was atomic theory. In that Dalton has given atomic theory. The main postulates of the theory are elements were made up of very small individual particles called atoms. All the atoms of a particular element are indivisible in shape and now, but the different atoms will be different from the atom of the other element. And the third point was atom of one element cannot be converted into atom of other element. Just now I've said you that atoms of sodium we cannot convert into calcium. Like that, fourth point what we have, atoms of different element will combine in the integral ratio to form compound. For example, H2O. Atoms can neither be created nor be destroyed. Next one about J.J. Thomson experiment we have studied. In J.J. Thomson's experiment, he has used a discharge tube. Okay, and he has invented what? Cathode rays, and he named those particles as electrons. He has used the light pedal wheel, the electric field parallel to those things. The electrons were discovered by J.J. Thomson. After that, we have read about the positive charge in an atom. Means in the atom, negative charge was already discovered. That is the electron. Now, positive charge should be also present in the atom, and those positive charge known as protons were discovered by Goldstein. He has also used the discharge tube experiment to prove that positive charge is present inside the atom, and he named those particles as positive rays or anode rays. After that, the name proton was given. Next, we have read about the characteristics of anodes. That anode rays are positively charged, they are deflected by the electric and the magnetic field, and the anode rays deflection of anode rays will depend on the nature of the gas in the discharge tube. After that, about Rutherford's atomic model or Rutherford's alpha ray scattering experiment we have read. In that, he has used the alpha rays, the high speed, and for their speed is very high. Okay, if they will travel, their speed will be very high, and he has used a thin gold foil. Okay, when he has conducted the experiment, what he has observed, what was the observation? That most of the alpha particles will travel straight through the gold foil without any deflection. And the second point was that very few of the alpha particles will be deflected by forming a large angle or small angle. And the third point, a very few alpha particles will rebound on hitting the gold foil. Means some of the alpha particles, when they will hit the gold foil, they will come back to their original path. This was the diagram, and what conclusion he has made? Rutherford has made the conclusion that since most of the alpha particles are traveling straight, lot of space should be present empty in the atom. Means in the atom, the space, lot of space is empty. The second point is since some of the alpha particles are deflected through small and large angles, there must be some positive charge in the atom in the center. In the center, some of the positive charge must be present in the atom. That's why the alpha particles are deflecting by forming small and large angle. And the third point, very few of the alpha particles are completely rebound on hitting. Means some of the alpha particles are getting back in their original path. By this, what he has concluded that the mass of the atom which is present in the center, which is positively charged, is concentrated in very small volume with the atom. Means that positive charge is very small in comparison to the total mass of the atom. So thank you for watching my channel. Please like and subscribe my channel, Science Learning Gateway. If this tutorial is helpful for you, then please share with your friends so that it will be helpful for them also. If you have any doubt, you can ask me in the comment section. Go through the chapter once, and if you have any doubt, you can ask me.